Another one for Tommy boy. Another one for the world. Another one for the listeners.
Episode number 21 of the Third Leg Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Riley Warren, and alongside with me is my co-host, Dr. Dunny. How you doing? How you been, buddy?
You know, can't complain. We're talking college football, which always gets me excited. It's not a Saturday morning like last episode, but hey, I'll take it anytime we're talking football.
Absolutely. College football is easily my favorite sport in the history of all sports.
Amen to that. Cannot get any better.
Today we're talking about the Big 12, the entirety of the conference, who we think will win the division, who will be on the downfall, and who will have some unexpected W's this year. To start it off, we got Baylor. How you doing?
I want to start by saying my predictions for each team are like, okay, I went through the schedule. These are the teams that I see you for sure winning, and then I'm going to list the games that are like tough for them that could, if they go 500, they can obviously have a better record than what I listed. So Baylor, they're over/under set at 6.5 by DraftKings. I have them at 6-6. They have a pretty tough schedule. They finish with three really tough opponents at Kansas State, at TCU, so top three teams in the Big 12 last year. And then they play home against West Virginia, which West Virginia should be a team that they can beat. But if you've just gone through two powerhouses like that, your team might be a little on the down, especially if you're not playing as well as you want. And that's when a big slip-up can happen, especially to a hungry team that is potentially just looking for its third or fourth victory on the season.
For sure. You would expect them to be a little banged up after that stretch of games as well going into West Virginia. I have them at 7-5. Their losses against Utah, Texas, K-State, UCF, and TCU. Like you said, there's going to be 50-50 games in this division a lot. This division is kind of wild year in and year out. There's a lot of upsets at the beginning and at the end of the year. I think they have an opportunity to win some of these 50-50 games and lose some of these 50-50 games. I think the 6.5 is a sharp line, but I would lean towards 7 wins with this team.
Okay. I mean, I like it. Baylor being one of the Texas teams, there's like 4 of them in this division, so they're all going to beat up on each other. It's not like you're getting a true home game, right? Like, everyone's so close.
For sure. There is an ass load of Texas teams, but only for one more year.
That's true.
Texas will be gone next year.
It's the Big 14 this year. Big 12 14. Will be back next year.
I can't even say anything about that because the Big 10 has like 30 fucking teams. So
That's true. That's true. All right, next team, BYU, over/under set at 5.5. I'm down on BYU. I think they're going to struggle this year. Not only because this is better competition than what they typically play against, they also have to travel quite some distance in order to go play their away games in the Big 12. So I have them at 3-9. They draw a tough schedule. They signed up to play Arkansas for some reason in the first couple weeks of the season. So they're traveling to Arkansas to play and get their asses kicked by them. Then they play TCU at Texas, at West Virginia, which is a huge travel, home against Oklahoma, and then at Oklahoma State. So tough games, 3-9. If they maybe win 4, but I really think the under is the sharp for
sure. I have 3-9 as well. I don't think a lot of our predictions will line up like usual, but this one does. 3-9. They have a new quarterback coming in, a completely new defensive coordinator implementing his system, which is pretty much impossible doing year one.
Right.
And I just believe that this is going to be a rebuild for them going into the conference. Hopefully they can get some better recruits going forward because they're in a better conference with more eyes on them. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to be 3-9 with wins over Sam Houston, Southern Utah, and one of the random 50-50 games for them.
Hey, I'm on deck. There we go.
Yep.
Next team is another team that is new to the conference in Central Florida, so UCF. Over/under set at 7 on the dot. I am very under on this team as well. I have them beating Kent State, Villanova, and then winning at Kansas, but even that's not a for sure win. That's a lot of travel to do. who knows what can happen? This are tough opponents that you're playing against. At Boise State's a lot of travel for them, so it's not a gimme. They're playing on the blue turf. Anything could happen.
Smurf turf.
At Kansas State, Baylor, at Oklahoma, at Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, home against Texas Tech. There's a lot of tough games that, especially playing bigger, more primetime opponents, I think they struggle this year.
I think they're going to do a little better than most people think. I think they're sitting at 7-5, 8-4. I think their for sure losses are going to be K-State, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Kansas.
Okay.
They returned John Rice Plumlee, who's an absolute stud. Their offensive scheme suits him specifically, and they, year in and year out, always upset a top 20 team. They're used to playing these games where they're always the underdogs. And I just think this program has been low-key stacking blue chips around the ball for the last few years, as in the transfer portal, and just getting very athletic players around the ball. And I think their offensive scheme works for that. So in my eyes, this team comes down to being able to play good enough defense to win games. I think their offense is going to be good, like it has been the last few years with Rice Plumlee. But I think it's going to come down to defense and special teams. I think they're going to have a better year than what most people think. And I'm going to take them 8-4 this year.
Okay. All right. You're on the over then for sure. I love it. Keeping it going alphabetically, Cincinnati is next. So, 3 teams right in a row that are new to the conference. Over under set at 5.5. I have them winning 6 games personally. Eastern Kentucky University, Miami of Ohio, BYU at home, Iowa State, UCF, Houston. So I think they beat up on the teams that come into the Big 12 with them. Could I be biased from what Cincinnati has been under Luke Fickell the last few years? Yeah, probably. But with historically, or I guess recently good program, you should have good athletes and a good established crew. So that's why I think they're ready to go the best out of the 4 teams that are coming in.
Okay, I am on the other side as well. I think they're going to go about 4-8 this year. I think it's a bad time to join the Big 12 for them. They've had so much talent on the field and in their coaching staff plucked the last 2 years. I believe this year, like BYU, will be another rebuild year within a new conference. I think they're going to be Eastern Kentucky, Miami, Ohio, Iowa State, and Houston.
Okay.
So that's like their 4 wins I think they're going to win. If somehow they get to a bowl game, I think it'll be monumental for Cincy. And that, I mean, winning 6 games is not big for any team, but when you join the Big 12, after literally all your stars are getting plucked, they have to develop new talent and coaching schemes and systems. I think it's going to be a rebuild year. Hopefully they get another influx of talent coming in and being able to mold them this year and be able to compete in the Big 12 next year.
Okay. All right. I mean, I respect it. You had them at, 4 wins? Is that what you said?
Yep, 4-8.
Okay.
They're the team. They're one of the teams in the division that I would feel really strongly in telling people to bet the under.
Okay. We will see. We will see.
We shall see.
5th team, Houston. Over under set at 5. I think that's pretty darn sharp. I have them 5-7. They have teams like UTSA, Rice, Sam Houston, West Virginia, UCF on their schedule. I think they win. Obviously, they play Cincinnati. So if you're on the hype train with Cincinnati, potentially they pull that game off late in the season. But I see it at 5-7.
I agree. 5-7.
All right.
I think getting to a bowl game this year in the Big 12 would be a huge W for them. UTSA, Rice, Sam Houston, West Virginia, OK State is what I got them, who I have them beating. And like everyone else in the division, there's going to be close coin toss games going down to the last drive. So I got them going 5-7. If they make it to the bowl game and go 6-6, it'll be huge. Like most teams in this division, especially the newer teams that just got implemented in. But I don't see anything surprising like last year coming from Houston. Any possibility of winning, 9, 10 games and being on that national stage of competition.
I agree, and ultimately with these 4 teams, it comes down to, is your game ready to stop a Big 12 offense? Because historically, that's what the Big 12 has been, right? Like,
Yep.
they're going to run and gun. They're not going to play much defense. If you can outscore them, you can beat them. But if you can't score points, you can't win. So, um, I guess that's what it all comes down to. Personally, I think Cincinnati's going to have the best chance, but then again, who knows?
Yeah, I don't think, to be honest, I don't think anyone that's joining this Big 12 is going to have a spectacular season or surprising year. Like I said, if any of them make it to the bowl, they're
They'll be
going to
happy.
be happy.
Amen. Amen.
Which is sad as a fan going in. Hopefully
Right.
we go 6-6. But if you do at the end of the year, you'll be happy. You'll get to watch them one more game, watch them develop.
That's true. That is true. Iowa State's next. What you got?
Iowa State over under at 6 wins. I got them winning 8 games.
Okay.
8 games. Last year, they lost 6 out of 8 games within 1 score, which falls on the side of unlucky. K-State was the most undervalued team last year, and I think Iowa State has a potential to not win the Big 12, but I think they're one of the more undervalued teams within this conference. I think they could be that team this year. They returned their stud of a quarterback, Hunter Deckers, and they have a stout offensive line that returns, I think, 4 out of 5 of their starters. So, like many teams, if their defense can withstand and not let up 50, 60 points like the Big 12 usually allows, I think they're going to have a great year this year. 8-4 is great for Iowa State with the talent in this division.
Is their head coach still the guy that everyone wanted Michigan to go after?
Yep.
Okay. I think Matt Campbell, maybe his name is, but I could be wrong. Good coach, though. So, hey, you could be correct. Personally, Iowa State stunk last year because of the unluckiness, I guess you could say. But I think they're going to stink again this year. The over-under's at 6, and personally, I have them at 3 and 9. So, they have a tough schedule. They play Iowa week 2. It's not a true home game. That's a big rivalry in state. They play OK State. They play Oklahoma. They play TCU. They play Baylor. They play Texas. They play Kansas State. Every team that I just listed finished pretty high above them in the standings the last couple of years. So I think that they're going to struggle again this year. Do they have the same fortitude? Can they build from last year? Who knows? Looking at like what we talked about with the Minnesota Vikings, with single-digit games and how they won so many, lost so many, this should be a return to the mean. So potentially they go a little bit more than 3 wins, but I really think they do struggle. And once morale gets down in college football, like how are you going to build it back up? So I think they go 3 and 9
For sure. I can see that. I can see it, but on the other side, in my mind, I just hope all year, all off season, all they think about are those 1-score games. They review the tape. All the players are thinking about how close they were to being able to get to a bowl game and beating good teams in the Big 12. They were very close against everyone in the division. So we'll see. I think they're going to be one of the more exciting teams to watch, whether they crumble or prevail.
Okay. All right. I can dig it. Kansas
is also at 6 wins flat. I think their schedule is fucking insane for adding Illinois to it. I honestly think the only wins they have are Missouri State, Nevada, BYU, and Cincy. Yeah, I mean, I could see them winning 4 or 5 games this year. I think the under 6 is my play. Last year was such an overhype for them that I can't get back on the train until they start rolling. I'm preseason. I don't want to hear none of it. I don't want any big time games going there. I don't want college game day going there because they threw every game last year that they were supposed to be in. They did not win. Any tough opponent they played last year, they lost.
You're correct.
I just don't think Kansas has that dog in them. I don't think they're going to do it this year.
They're a basketball school, okay? We can say it. That's fine. um, they're a blue blood, but it's for basketball, not football. Sorry, Kansas. I have them 5-7. So the teams that you kind of talked about, Missouri State and Nevada, I think those are for sure two locks for them this year. And then I think they probably win 3 out of the 4 with BYU, UCF, Iowa State, and Cincinnati. So, obviously I'm down on a couple of those teams, so I'd probably view them in a different eye at 5-7. If they're 5-7 or they have 5 wins and they're going into Cincinnati with a chance for a bowl game on the line, who knows? They could win that 6th game. But personally, I also don't. I think under is the bet for Kansas this year.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not getting hyped about Kansas until they're like 7-1. I don't want to hear any of that shit
Until November when basketball starts.
Yeah, exactly. Once the Kansas faithful start going to the basketball games instead of the football games.
Oh, Lord have mercy. But
Big 12 champs next.
Oh, okay. Calling your shot, huh? Calling your shot. Kansas State.
K-State.
Over under 8 wins. What did you taking?
I got them at 9 or 10 wins. I
Okay.
wouldn't be surprised if they get 10 wins and their only losses are one of the coin toss games and Texas.
Okay.
I think Texas is like a for sure lock for them as a loss. Last year, like I already said, they were the most undervalued team. They only gave them 6 wins flat last year going into the year, and they were Big 12 champs. So, I mean, and they knocked off TCU, which was a wild fucking game. That was a memorable game. There was a lot of purple in that stadium.
For sure.
They still got QB Will Howard and almost all of their entire offensive line. We got to see what they did last year. Absolute studs. If they get another, I don't know the running back situation, but if they get another good running back, the offensive scheme was extremely strong, and we'll see how it pans out next year. But I'm high on K-State again. I hope they get off rolling. I would hope they beat Texas.
Okay.
I would love for them to beat Texas. We'll talk about Texas, but they got a tough schedule as well.
Okay. I have them right at 8 wins. The 4 tough games that I picked out of their schedule that I was like, well, it could be a toss-up. At Oklahoma State, TCU, at Texas, and Baylor. So like you talked about, Kansas State was undervalued a lot last year, and they made it to the Big 12 championship. They ended up winning the Big 12 championship, which I think a lot of people forget, right?
It's easy to forget because TCU went.
Right. But I from that high, how do you not regress? I guess it's hard to continue to build a program, especially with such a highly touted opponent list that you're going to play. And then some of the other teams have a little bit more of a cake schedule than maybe you do. So
for sure,
with this being the 2 best teams get into the championship, not like the winner of your division gets in, it makes it hard because if you play tougher opponents, you're not setting yourself up for, good things. So
for sure. I think going into this year, they're kicking themselves in the ass for losing the games they shouldn't and still getting to the Big 12 and winning, knowing if they would have won one more game in the regular season, they're the ones instead of TCU.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of the motivation for them in my eyes going in is that we won our fucking conference. We should have went instead of TCU. Yep. We beat TCU a week before they went to, the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my mindset. I hope that's their mindset as well. So I like them to get at least 9 wins. I like the over or at least the push for K-State at 8.
All right. I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm a push here, so I don't like over or under. Oklahoma's next. What do you got? Last year in the Big 12.
Last year in the Big 12 alongside Texas, the over-under is at 9.5 wins. On paper, they have the easiest schedule in the Big 12. But they have the number 122 defense last year with a 6-7 record. So on paper, who gives a shit? Their offense lost almost all of their proven playmakers. They have a lot of coin flip games this year. I got them at 7-5.
Okay, you're on the under. Right now, I have them on the under as well, 9-3. So I don't. I think they play a little bit better than they did last year. A little bit more like Oklahoma, of the typical fashion. Tough games for them. It's going to be Texas. It's at a neutral site. They're playing in Jerry World, so it's not a home game for them for sure. At Oklahoma State, and then home against TCU. So it's tough to say with the 50-50 games. There's opponents that they should beat. The games that they're going to come down to the wire, do they have the defense, or can they get a stop when it matters most? That's the thing that always kills Oklahoma is, yes, you're scoring, but it's the fourth quarter and their team has the ball with 4 minutes to go. Can you get a stop? Because if not, you're going to lose.
Yeah, I don't know how many games they're going to win 60-63. So this comes, like most Big 12 teams, this comes down to your defense being able to get a stop. The last 5-7 years I've watched Oklahoma football, I've never seen a game where they didn't let up 35. They have a terrible defense. Always. I don't know if it's scheme
always.
or the players on the field, but I have negative trust in Oklahoma's defense. Their offense is always fun to watch. They always got, speed demons out there, playmakers, but it comes down to turnover and defense, and we know how it's been. So I'm not too high on Oklahoma this year, strictly because they were ranked 122nd in defense last year, and you would have to have a massive improvement to get into the top 50 for you to stand a chance to win 9 games, in my eyes.
Wholeheartedly agree. There's really only one game of Oklahoma's that I will tune into, and it's the Red River Rivalry when they play Texas. I always watch it. It's a noon game every time, so I'm like, okay, this is perfect.
Those are usually the 40, 50, 60-point games that are just going back and forth. They're track meets, dude.
And hopefully it comes down to the last-second field goal. Hopefully Michigan's playing at 4:30, so we don't have to worry about switching back and forth. Actually,
switching back and forth. What are we talking about?
We don't have to worry about breaking out a second TV. All right.
I was going to say, we have 5 TVs. Don't you worry about that. It's not 2004.
That's true. The Michigan game doesn't get turned off.
Yeah, you know the drill.
But yeah, Oklahoma under again. Defense can't do anything. I don't even know who's starting at quarterback for them. They've had so many big names the last 10 years. I can't remember their quarterback now. They still have a
stud. I can't remember his name, but he's a stud and he played really well last year. But they let up 65 points a game, so
it didn't really matter.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to go.
Okay.
Another team in Oklahoma State. I hear you're pretty high on these guys. What kind of inside info do you got for us with Oklahoma State, Dunny?
So, Mike Gundy, that's what you need to know, right? He's the head coach still. Talk to me, I'm a man, that guy. He's still there.
He's got the visor on?
Yeah, still.
Dude, he's the GOAT.
Their over-under is set at 6 wins, and I think that's criminal. Take their over right now. I think they have the easiest schedule in the Big 12, in my opinion. They're plus 4,000 to win the Big 12. And personally, I'm taking it. That's going to be my pick to win the Big 12. Maybe not a team that I have them picking to win or to at least have the best record. But I think it's a great value, even if they aren't the team that you believe in. You think another team is going to get more wins than them. I think as far as value-wise, they should do well. Last year, they only lost 1 home game. So they played well at home. And last year, they only won 1 away game. So they struggled on the road. Right, they struggled on the road. But their away teams this year, Arizona State, they should win. Iowa State, I'm a bit down on. They should win. West Virginia, they should win. UCF, they should win. And then Houston, they should win, in my opinion. Those are 5 games that they should run the table on. They're tough opponents this year. They draw Oklahoma and they draw Kansas State, but they miss out on Texas, TCU, those kind of games where you're like, okay, now you have 3, 4, 5 tough opponents. They don't have a tough schedule as far as outside of the Big 12. So I think this team goes 9-10 wins. I'm going 10-2. Let's go.
What did Stephen A say? Stay off the weed.
Trust me, folks, you don't have to worry about that, but we are sipping out of Moscow, so maybe that had a little bit something to do with it. But no, you'll be looking at me, cheering for the Cowboys ×2 this year.
Jesus Christ, dude. Get off the Cowboys. NFL and college. All right, for me, it's hard to gauge after a 2021 Big 12 title run that led to a tanking 2022 season.
Mm-hmm.
They have an extremely favorable home schedule, but a new quarterback and a new defense coordinator. There's kind of a lot of questions in the offseason. I have them finishing at 7-5. I do like the over. I think if there's a team to take the over on in this division, it would be them. I'm right there with you. We might have to do a little something before the season starts and the odds change. But I'm not as high as you are on them or in general. But I like them winning at least 6 games this year. I would take at least the push.
Okay, all right.
Strictly off their schedule.
Yeah.
Strictly off their schedule.
I mean, I get it. Like I said, I think their away games are all very, very winnable for them. So, like, if they do what they did at home and then they improve on the road, they're going to be up there and competing for a Big 12 championship. And then they just have to pray that everyone else beats the shit out of each other like they typically do, because they kind of miss out on the tougher opponents.
There's some law that everything averages out in the end.
It's true.
I think last year and this year we'll have a little bit of that. I don't know if they're going to go undefeated or whatever and then lose all their away games. I think it's going to be a little mixed up this year. I don't know if that stat's going to prevail, but it is fun to look at going into the season. So I'm
Definitely.
with you. I like them winning at least 6 games. This is a favorable bet for me. But the plus 4K, you got me.
Hey, that's great return on investment, especially, okay, think about it. If you take them at plus 4,000 and they start hot like I expect them to, and you get a cash out and you take that and then you say, I don't care what Oklahoma State does anymore. Screw them.
Buddy, if they start out hot, nobody's cashing out.
That's true.
We're degenerates, buddy.
Right till we die. Amen.
Come on, we're degenerates. We don't even see the cash out button.
That's true. That is true.
All right, next team, TCU over under 7.5. Very surprising after coming off a national title run. How do you think they're going to do this year?
I mean, honestly, I think this is a team that the over is almost a lock. I think they're going to start 9-0. They're going to be in the top 10, and then I think they finish 9-3. So they have a tough schedule. They play their last 3 games. Texas at home, which obviously it's not really a home game. They're playing Texas. Baylor at home, which is another Texas team, at Oklahoma. So if Oklahoma figures something out on defense or can score 100 points against them, who knows what can happen. Do they have a little bit of the national championship hangover? Potentially, but at 7.5, I think it's pretty safe to say they're going to go over.
I am right there with you. I do like the over at 7.5. This is a team that I'm just curious going in just because last year was so strong, but they've had a lot of talent around the ball plucked. So it'll be fun to see the pieces get plugged and how well those guys do in the first 5 weeks, because that's going to determine their whole season. I like over 7.5. I got them at 8-4, but I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if they start out 9-0. I think the Texas, Baylor, Oklahoma, those are going to be the games. But like I said, there's so many questions around the ball that I think there's going to be a lot more close games than there were last year, Phil.
Right, and Dugan's gone. That was his name, I think, Max,
Yep,
right?
Max.
And then Quentin Johnson's gone too. So there's 2 huge, big-name guys that they have to replace.
Yeah, that was the fuck it. Quentin's down there somewhere.
Right, chuck it to him. That boy
Dude,
can
that
run.
man, that's a human 9 route right there.
Amen to that. Amen.
Absolute wheels.
That's what everyone prays to throw to.
I will say, talking about this conference, I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
I'm kind of excited to watch the Big 12. I don't think I've ever said that in my life.
right. With, I mean, the Big Ten, obviously, we kind of expect 3 or 4 teams to kind of run things. The Big 12 is open. If you have a good year and you can play a smidge of defense, you got a chance.
Yeah, the Big 14 is going to be fucking fun this year.
Right. Amen to that. Amen. Um, Next team, good old, Longhorns, right? Hook 'em. Over under 9.5. Personally, I don't really like this line for Texas. They say competition breeds success, right? It's going to bring the best out of everyone. So their quarterback play should be pretty damn good this year. But I don't know. I don't trust Ewers, but I also don't like playing a freshman in um, this kind of a system, I guess, where you're expected to score points and not really stop very many people. So I have them at 8-4. Tough games for me, for them. At Baylor, purely because it's an in-state rivalry. Oklahoma at a neutral site. Red River rivalry. You never know what can happen. Home against Kansas State, and then at TCU. So tough opponents. 8-4. I would take the under personally for Texas this year. I think they move on from Ewers towards the end of the season, and you see Archie get his thing done. But I don't know. What do you think?
I would say hook 'em.
Okay. All right.
Hook 'em. I like them at 10 wins this year. I think their only guaranteed loss is against Bama.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's their only guaranteed loss. I think Sarkisian, or whatever his fucking name is, he's a great offensive mind. I think Ewers is a stud. I think he just needed another year to develop, get comfortable in the system, hope to God his defense can make a stop. And I think he's going to be a great player. I think he's going to have one of those years that gets him into the top 5 draft next year.
Okay.
Leading into Archie going next. So I think this is his year. He knows who's behind him. He has to be that guy, and he's playing for, his future in the NFL, not even collegiate ball. So I think he's got a lot on his shoulders. We'll see if it's too much weight and he breaks, or if he turns Texas football around in the right direction right before Archie comes. That hype train building.
Okay. As far as Ewers, would you rather have him, Caleb Williams, or JJ?
Oh my God, you're gonna put me on the spot like that?
Yeah.
I like Ewers.
Really?
As a talent, an arm talent, I take Ewers in a pro-style offense. I would take him in the NFL. It depends what system you're in college. A lot of that is a big factor in who's around the ball. But if Ewers at Michigan, I would be extremely happy. I think he's a big guy that is going to show people how well he does under pressure this year. I think this is his defining moment. I got a lot of faith in him. I watched a lot of games last year. A lot of mistakes, but when it's there, he's fucking talented. He's got big arm talent. He can't escape the pocket, and he's got legs. He's not just stuck like a Manning would be. So I don't know. I like Ewers a lot. I guess that's how high I am on him, and that's why I have him winning 10 games this year.
Okay. Hey, power to you. I forget who it was that they played last year that he was playing so damn good, and then he got hurt in the middle of the game, so things kind of fell apart. It was still a close game towards the end, but with him, I think they pull it out.
That was Bama.
Yeah, it was Bama. Okay, thank you.
And they should have won that fucking game.
Right. So
that was a crazy game, dude. There was a lot of weird shit that happened in that game.
Hopefully we get to see that kind of game again,
Yeah, absolutely. Playing Bama back-to-back years out of conference. I don't know who the fuck scheduled that, but good job. For TV ratings, thank you.
You got to get ready for it, though, because you're about to go play Bama every year.
That's true. You're going to play them at home and in your crib once a year. That's fucking insane. Right. Let me just say this. If Texas has a 10-game winning season this year, they're going to be like America's team leading in with Archie. If Ewers goes, Archie steps up, they're going to be like America's team.
They're holding the
50%
American
are gonna
flag
hate
as they're
them.
going to SEC.
Yeah, 50% of America will hate them, and the other 50 will be huge bandwagons, just like the Cowgirls. If you're not a Cowgirls fan, you hate them, but there's so many fucking Cowboys fans. You know, it's America's team.
Mm-hmm.
I think Texas could be leading that way if they have a big year. If they choke this year, there's going to be so many question marks going into the SEC. It's going to be unfucking real.
Right. How can you compete against SEC? You can't even compete against the Big 12, right? Like, that'll be all you hear all off season.
Yeah, you let Oklahoma score 50 points on you. What do you think Bama's going to do in Alabama every year?
Right. Or you couldn't score 30 against so-and-so. What are you going to do against Georgia?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly.
You know?
I think the switch up to the SEC is going to be big for the college, but I don't think the first 3 years they're going to have success, especially with Archie.
Right. I mean, with them going to the SEC, it's obviously bringing a lot more money and revenue to not only them, but the conference itself. Longhorn Network is a real thing. But I don't think the SEC is done either. So I feel like before 2020, 2028, you're going to see like the ACC fall. I think Clemson will come. I think, you can get like Florida State, Miami, those kind of schools to come join the Southeastern Conference. So it's more of like a South versus a North almost, and with the West still out there. But we'll see. I think
if Clemson goes to the SEC, you will never see him in another national championship game in your life. In your life.
I mean, it depends, right? If they get another T-Law, right? If you get that guy, that dude, you can compete against anyone.
Yeah, I guess. But I just don't see it. I think if Clemson went there, you would see Dabo on ESPN commentating within the next 5 years. I'm not bullshitting, dude. You've seen what they've been doing with a subpar quarterback in their own shitty conference.
It's true.
Go play Georgia and Bama. See how many defensive players you got for the next week.
I feel you. But we'll talk about ACC later. We'll talk
Yeah.
ACC
We'll get on
later.
that. Stop sidetracking me.
Sorry. Texas Tech is next. What you got?
Texas Tech, what are they at? Over 7.5. Their expectations this year are kind of off the chart. Within the Big 12, there's a lot of people thinking they're going to have a big year. Week 2 is going to be their gauge. They play Oregon. So they'll know very, very soon whether this team's going to be legit or not. They're lucky they get TCU and K-State at home this year. That's a big draw to have them both at home.
Right.
So I think if they split those and they beat Oregon, they go 8-4, 7-5.
That's what you got them at?
7-5, yeah.
So you're taking over for sure? Or right at the line, not confident?
Yeah, I'm not too confident.
Okay.
I like 7 wins. I'm not super high on them. I just know that there's a lot of talk for them going in.
Okay.
So yeah, I like them at 7-8 wins.
Okay. I'm taking under. I'm confident in under.
Okay.
All right. So tough games. Obviously, you talked about it. Nailed it on the head. Oregon coming to play them at Baylor, Kansas State, TCU, at Texas. So do they win those games? Do they lose those games? It's a coin flip. I think that they fall on the, I guess, more than 50% loss in those games. So I took 5 and 7, under 7.5 for sure.
I could see it. I'm not, like I said, I'm not on the hype train. I just know there's a lot of hype going in. So if they do exceed the 7-8 win expectations, I don't think there's going to be too many people that watch that conference. I would be too surprised. But for me personally, they have a very tough schedule this year, and it's always tough playing TCU, Texas, Baylor, all the Texas teams. So I don't think they're gonna prevail and do that 8-9 win. So
right, I see it. And then there was one.
Save the worst for last.
I'm
just kidding.
West Virginia over under sets at 5.5. They got some tough teams, especially early in their season. I have them at 6-6 personally. At Penn State, week 1. Why would you sign up for that? Week 2, home against Pittsburgh. So you're playing both Pennsylvania teams right away and saying, hey, bring it on, guys.
I don't know what that was about.
TCU's coming to play them. Oklahoma State's coming to play them. They're going to go to Oklahoma and then go to Baylor. So those are tough wins. If they pull out any of them, I would be surprised. I have them at 6-6.
Well, I'm even worse than 6-6. I have them at 3-9 this year.
Damn.
I have them having a very tough year this year. They have a brutal schedule. Starting out week 1 at Penn State. I think the only win they have in the first 5 weeks is versus Duquesne, or however the hell you say that.
Right.
But they got at Penn State, then the Duquesne game, Pitt, Texas Tech, TCU. If they have 2 wins after that, I would be extremely surprised. And then the rest of their schedule doesn't get too much easier. I see them beating BYU and maybe Cincy.
Okay.
Other than that, I mean, I think 5 wins is like their ceiling. If they even get 5 wins, I would be very surprised this year. But, there's going to be a lot of coin toss games like there is in this conference, like we talked about, and it's going to come down to that last possession sometimes.
Amen. So you're very strong under for them then, huh?
Yeah, very strong. What is it, 5.5? Yeah, I'd be extremely surprised if they got over 6 wins.
Okay.
If they get to a bowl game, I'll be extremely surprised. There'll be like some stud or some kind of special talent that we didn't know about.
Right.
Or, because they never have a great defense. Nobody in this division does. West Virginia, more than others, usually has a very shitty defense. So I have very low expectations for this team. It's a tough schedule. Tough week 1 draw at Penn State, too.
Okay. All right.
If you were playing Penn State at home, it would be not favorable, but it'd be a little easier to look at. But seeing at Penn State week 1, that's going to be tough.
When everyone's coming to the game, kids don't have to study, so they're going to be out and
it's
about.
It's going to be rocking. Everyone's been waiting. And the thing is, like I said, they have a shit defense, and you're going to go play a Big Ten team that will wear and tear you all game. And Big Ten, we play defense.
We do.
We don't let up 45 a game.
So, okay, this is going to get me on one of my soapboxes as far as Big Ten and defense, right? I know we talked about them already, but I'm always huge on the Big Ten and how well they play the game of football. But then when we go to bowl season, we fall apart. Like every time I do a bowl pick'em like pool, if anyone is going with Big Ten teams, I'm going opposite because just looking in the past, we suck against everyone else. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, if you're looking at the numbers, statistically, we suck. I mean, starting off with Michigan, we're like 1-6 in the last 7 years. Some of those games are we don't give a fuck, and
That's
our
true.
starters, a lot of our starters are gone. We're implementing new guys that haven't played much this year, trying to get their feet wet for the next year, and you're just playing against teams that you don't scheme against often. So, not making excuses, but at the end of the day, a lot of these bowl games don't fucking matter.
It's true. If you're not in the Final Four, who cares?
Yeah, there's a lot of these bowl games that don't matter. There's a few, like the Rose Bowl and very prestigious bowls that guys will stick around and play for because they just want it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're playing a Citrus Bowl versus Florida State. Who gives a fuck? Nobody cares. Like, yeah, it'd be cool if we won, but what happens if we win?
I feel you.
Nothing. It doesn't matter. It's just like, cool. But on the other side of it, when you lose them, they always like to bring them up and be like, hey, he's X and X in bowl games or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Big time games. It's like, yeah, whatever. I don't really care about that stat. I would rather care what you do during the season, because if you don't make it to your conference championship or the playoffs in general, who gives a shit?
Amen.
It really doesn't matter. I don't care if a 7-5 team beats a 6-6 team in a bowl game. Who cares? I really don't. It doesn't matter to me at all.
Okay, at least we're on the same page because I don't care either.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. It kind of annoys me.
Right.
If you can't tell, it kind of annoys me. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you win, because those are just whatever games.
Okay. All right. So recapping the Big 12. There's 14 teams. Next year, they're going down to 12. Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. So final season with them. Personally, I'm taking Oklahoma State plus 4,000 to win the Big 12. I have them in the championship game versus whoever wins out of Oklahoma and TCU because they play. I think those teams potentially both go 9-3. Whoever won that game is in.
For sure. I'm just going to be the square better and take Texas. I think you could already hear how high I am on Texas.
Right.
I expect them to do great things this year. In week 2 versus Bama, we will be able to tell who this team is and what they're all about. So I might be able to eat my words immediately if it's a 38-14 game or whatever.
Right.
But before the season starts, I'm very high on them. I like them. They're only a plus 105, super square bet. I want to advise you to take it because the Big 14 is a lot of coin flip games and a lot of crazy shit. So this isn't one conference that I would, back a favorite in by any means.
Okay. Potentially, okay, just a bet that I'm thinking of if you are a big Texas guy. If you believe in Ewers, maybe looking at the Heisman. Yeah. Now, he's got to be, top 10 odds probably, but you could probably get a good value for him.
For sure. I mean, if they do what I think they're going to do, it'd be hard for him not to be a top 3 candidate.
Especially if they beat Bama week 2.
If they beat Bama, I'm taking every clip I said about it and going to the moon with it.
Amen.
But if they lose, I'm scrubbing it.
What happened to this one? Well, don't worry about it. We're good.
Don't worry about it. Episode 21, I don't know where it went. All right. Well, that's going to do it for the Big 12 from us. If you are listening now and would like to know what we were talking about for the Big 10, make sure you go check that video out on YouTube or the audio on Spotify or Apple Music. As always, we really do appreciate you guys. Much love. Next week, we will be talking 2 more conferences. One on college, one in NFL. They are still undecided yet, so be on the lookout for those. And as always, we really do appreciate you guys.
Also want to maybe talk about the potential pair up or group that we're doing here soon.
Oh, yeah. So next week, we are going to make an appearance on Bet Espresso with Sweatpants Jesus and the Betting News guys. And then the following week, we're going to have SPJ over on the Third Leg podcast and do a little mashup there. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure you follow and check out Betting News and Sweatpants Jesus on Twitter. He's an absolute great guy. He's been in the community a long time. Very trustworthy and straightforward dude. Very friendly, happy-go-lucky guy. So make sure you check him out, show him some love, and check out that video next week. Be on the lookout for it.
All right. Peace.
Peace, guys.
Another one for Tommy boy. Another one for the world. Another one for the listeners.